Hello and welcome to another edition of the JDS Review. I'm your host, Jose. Also, I'm going to be going by a new stage name called JD Solo. That was JDS. So yeah, my legal name is Jose. And today I'm going to be discussing the debate about the two different sports that are played in America, soccer and football. And I'm going to debate the name debate as to what they should be called. Now I know with this video I am going to get a lot of massive heat because of this video. Now, former WCW Executive President Eric Bischoff once wrote a book titled Controversy Creates Cash. And I'm hoping that this commentary, although very controversial, will generate a lot of buzz and possibly give me some monetization in this video, even though I know I'm going to get a lot of massive heat for doing it. Now, most people know soccer and football. However, when I took Spanish class in high school, I came to find out that internationally, soccer is known as football. However, the game of the NFL is called Futbol Americano. Okay, but later I found out that when my kids were playing in a soccer football league, that many other parents are saying, "Oh, my kids play tackle football," which is what they call the game of the NFL or American football, tackle football. So, and when I was on vacation in Florida many years ago, I was on a timeshare presentation, and if you haven't seen my timeshare review presentation / timeshare one-on-one video, please check it out. It's a fantastic video. I promise you, you're going to enjoy it. A timeshare salesperson that I was talking to, he was asking me why is soccer in the United States not called football? Because after all, he says, the players on what you call soccer, they use their foot. But in American football, what you call football, they don't use their foot on there. Only certain people use their foot. And so I told him, sir, you win that argument with me every single time. Because you're right, almost all the players in what we know as soccer, they use their foot to kick the ball from one end of the pit of what they call the pitch, back and forth. But in the NFL, the only players who use their foot are the punters and the kickers, and that makes up a very small percentage of the entire team. So should it be called football instead of soccer? Now, some of you are going, I know many are going to assume that because I'm Hispanic / Latino, then I'm in favor of changing the name to football. However, for the record, let me make this, and this is where I'm going to get some heat. I do not like soccer. Okay, for the record, I am not a fan of soccer or football. Now, you're probably wondering, why don't you like it? Well, it's simple. It's slow, it's nuanced, and as Tony Kornheiser on the ESPN Sports Talk Show PTI once said, he said, they don't score! There's almost no scoring in the game whatsoever. Now look, I tried to watch the World Cup back in 2010 when Spain beat the Netherlands 1-0, and it was unbearably boring. I could not stand it. I was bored to tears, and I've had some relatives that tell me, well, you should watch the European League, you should watch Premier League, like watch it from Europe, it's a lot more exciting. And I'm like, I've tried to do that, and it's still the same old boring crap. I don't like it. Just my opinion, okay? And plus, I hate that the most important the most important game in the entire sport, the World Cup, a real world championship, that if it's tied after so many after so long that it comes down to penalty kicks, in which you're basically guessing the opposite direction in which the ball is going to be kicked or where the goalie is going to be blocking it. And Jim Rome, who used to have a talk show on ESPN but still has his own radio show, who absolutely hates this sport. Now, I'll admit I dislike it. Jim Rome hates it because his rants are absolutely epic. And he brought out a good point one time. He said, how crazy would it be if, let's say, back in the day when the Lakers and Celtics were in the NBA Finals, and it's Game 7, and the winner of Game 7 are the new NBA champions. And let's say that the Lakers and Celtics go into, let's say, triple overtime. It's still tied, and the referees decide, hey, we're going to let Magic Johnson and Larry Bird play a game of fours to determine who would win the championship. I mean, people would absolutely lose their minds, or as the British would say, they've gone bloody bonkers. And now, in case you're wondering, well, what about the NFL overtime rule? Don't you think that's ridiculous? And yes, I do agree. I know it's a topic for a different discussion, but I absolutely hate the NFL's overtime rule about the first team to score a touchdown automatically wins. Like a couple of years ago, when the Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers, it's like they scored a touchdown and the game was over, and San Francisco didn't even get a chance to even attempt to score. So I hate that rule too. Now that could be a different video all in itself. So yeah, so as much as I love the NFL, I hate their overtime rule, and I've been saying they need to change it. They should have changed that years ago. Absolutely should have changed that years ago. Yeah, so that's where I have a problem. That's where I have a problem with how football is decided. And then I remember when Brazil won the World Cup in the mid-90s, many of my classmates were complaining about how Brazil had to win the World Cup based on penalty kicks. I'm just like, hey, that's the era of your sport. That's the way it is. If you don't like it, complain about it. Go right ahead, because I sure will. So, yeah. So, now, I had to do a little bit of research before I did this video to find out why it went from being, because internationally, all over the world, soccer is known as football. And it originated in Europe, and that's where it started. So many people often wonder, well, how did it come to be called soccer? And so I'm going to put a link in the description below that has a really good article on how it happened. Now, because the sport originated in England, most people often assume that soccer is an Americanism. However, in fact, I found out through my research that the word is actually thoroughly British in origin. So why is it that Americans, Canadians, Australians, and others use the word rather than Britain? Well, that answer lies in how the sport in each country. Now it has been often said that it may have begun around 1863. The newly formed Football Association wrote down a set of rules at the time, and it was most widely played of its kind, but it wasn't the only one. Football, named after an English boarding school, was a variation of players to carry and run the ball to advance towards a goal under the Football Association's rules, thus known as Association Football. The names later were shortened. Linguistically, creative students in the University of Oxford in the 1880s distinguished between the two sports, rugby football and soccer, association football. The later would be shortened to just soccer, sometimes spelled soccer, and led beyond campus. However, soccer never became much more than a nickname in Great Britain, And by the 20th century, football was more commonly called rugby, while association football had earned the right to just be called just plain football. And again, if this is information overload, there's a link in the description below where you could read this all for yourself to see what I'm talking about. Now, meanwhile, later in the United States, a sport emerged in the late 19th century which involved elements of both rugby and association football, and it had proved to be more popular than either one of them. In full, it was known as gridiron football. Well, most people never bothered to use the first word gridiron and just stuck with just football. So as a result, the American Association of Football Players increasingly adopted soccer to refer to their sports. The United States Football Association, which had formed in the 1910s as the organizing body of American soccer, changed its name to the United States Soccer Football Association in 1945, then later dispensed with the name football altogether. No longer just a nickname, soccer had stuck. Now again, I know this is information overload and that was a lot to just basically read off my outline and read for you, the audience. But the link is in the description below. Click on it and read for yourself to see what I'm talking about. Now, here's my opinion on the name and what it should be. Now, if there were a committee that wanted to change the name of soccer to football, I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't have a problem with it because, again, most of the players on the pitch actually use their foot to advance the ball. But now you're wondering, well, what should the game of the NFL be called? Well, it used to be called gridiron football, but that might be a bit too long. Now, if there were a committee that wanted to change the NFL from football to soccer, I would be fine with that because, after all, the players there do wear very high socks, so I can see where the name soccer was stick. Now, I know that the pigskin purists and the guardians of the gridiron are going to want my head for that suggestion. In fact, if Jim Rome ever watches this video, which I seriously doubt he will, because he's Jim Rome, he's a big-time sports talker and anchor. But if he ever watches this video, and if he still had to show Jim Rome burning on ESPN, I guarantee you, not also would Jim Rome rip me to shreds, but then he would absolutely blowtorch me to ashes for even coming up with that suggestion. Now, I don't like football, soccer, football, but Jim Rome actually hates that sport because his rants are absolutely epic, and you can still find some of them on YouTube because I used to have a YouTube channel many years ago, which I basically would upload clips of some of the best clips from ESPN talk shows. And when I used to upload Jim Rome clips, the hate and the comments that I used to get were just unbelievable. The hatred Jim Rome would get from many different people. Now, I used to have a coworker who was a massive fan of soccer or football, and we used to get into arguments about it, and he used to think it was going to become a big deal. And look, many people thought that soccer or football was going to become a big deal with David Beckham coming over from Europe, but it turned out to not even nudge the needle, let alone actually move it. So now, when Cristiano Ronaldo came from Europe to MLS for the Miami team, that massively increased ticket sales as well as ratings and the local economy for that, which to me, that is great for the sport. I'm happy for Major League Soccer that Cristiano Ronaldo has helped that sport tremendously a lot. But here's the truth, whether you want to like it or not, I know this is going to get me deep with the football fanatics, is that even if the men's U.S. soccer team won multiple World Cups and gold medal at the Olympics, soccer will still, football will still never be in the top sports in the U.S. It will always be behind the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, NASCAR, and even golf and tennis. Now look, it may surpass water polo or the World Series of Poker. Because the only time you will ever catch me watching a soccer or football game is when my kids are in that soccer league and I'm watching them play because they're my kids and I love them and I want them to have a great time and do well and get good exercise and doing it, and they actually were pretty good. In fact, one of my kids actually did something that very seldomly ever happens, and that's scoring ever happened. And I used to make fun of this. There was a Spanish-speaking broadcaster who every time there would be a goal, he would hold his headphones and scream, and I found it funny. I'm like, why is this guy getting all excited about a goal? Because they very seldomly happen in that sport. So, and that's just the way it is. Now, what do you think about if soccer should be changed to football? And if so, what should the name of the game of the NFL be called? Gridiron football? Or should that be, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below or send me an email. Now please come up with an actual name for both sports, because we simply can't call both of them football, as that would create way too much confusion. Okay. Now, for those of you that think don't change anything, leave it as football and soccer, I'm 100% with you, because by now we all know them as those sports. That's what we know them by. Okay. Now, again, you have to let me know, what do you think that the game of the World Cup should be called, or maybe MLS should be called. Okay, now please leave your comments in the description below. Now look, if you want to rip me, if you want to call me ignorant, if you want to say I don't know what I'm talking about, that I don't get the sport, hey, say all you want. The only thing I ask is please keep your comments clean and be respectful of other people's opinions on it. When we call them, you're a bleeping idiot, you don't know what you're talking about other commenters. So please be respectful of the other comments, and please follow YouTube's community guideline rules when it comes to leaving comments. Now, all I ask, please, no cussing in the comments, because I'm trying to keep this channel as clean for as many audiences as possible. Now, for all of you First Amendment or freedom of speech marks that want to come after me and talk about, this is America, we can say whatever we want, you can't control our speech. Well, look, I'll tell you what. I want you to go to your next company gathering, next company meeting, and go start cursing up a storm, and go start making sexually improper remarks to employees of the opposite gender. And please tell me how well that freedom of speech worked out for you. Because the truth is that freedom of speech is relative. It is not absolute. Because if it was absolute, political correctness and cancel culture wouldn't be a thing. But yet, here we are. So that's all I ask. Look, say what you want. You just don't have to be ugly by cursing on it. That's all I want you to do. That's all I'm asking. And if you are cursing, I would possibly have to remove your comments. I wish I could edit them to where I could delete them out, but I don't know if there's an option for me to do that. And if you're a repeat offender, I may have to block you from commenting, which I really don't want to do, because I want people to state their opinions. I just want you to keep it clean and keep it classy. That's all I ask. So please, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate the video because you don't like my opinion, if you want to hit a thumbs down, you're entitled to your opinion. You can do that too. But all I ask is please share it with everyone that you know, especially who are fans of either sport. Even though I know that's going to garner a lot of heat for me, but that's okay. I'm a big boy. I can take it. That's why I made the video. If I was worried about getting backlash and heat, I wouldn't have recorded it in the first place. Okay, folks, well, thank you so much for spending your time with me. Please share this with as many people as possible on social media, email, text, however you want to. Just share it, please. And please, if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and check out my other videos on here. And I will see y'all later. Bye.